Hey, welcome back to Shane's Main Shop. Sorry about the background fan noise. I got the furnace running here, but in an earlier video, I replaced the solenoids on this E60 Diamond Plow pump. In the process of that, I noticed water in my fluid. So we're gonna go ahead and drain the fluid out of this and replace it all. And to do that, of course, the drain plug is on the bottom on the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and swivel this thing around and get to that. It's right there. Hopefully you can see that. Just quickly before we get into the video, make sure you swing over to The Art of Doing, another YouTube channel, and he's really just trying to inspire people to try something new, something you might not have tried before. So swing over there, let him know I sent you, and maybe you'll find something interesting over there as well. All right, so my drain plug is really stuck. I mean, I did everything to pound on it. It's now the Allen wrench is getting loose in the hole. And I can use a chisel and screw with it, but what I think I'm going to do is just go ahead and remove the whole motor and the cap back inside here and just access entirely inside the pump and make sure it's cleaned out. What I did do is I pulled the fill plug, dumped it upside down to get as much out as I could, and a lot of water did come out. So I'd really like to get in there and make sure everything's nice and clean before we refill it with fluid. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. First thing I do is remove these two screws, which takes this cap off. All right, once the cap is off, you got these two bolts here that will remove the motor from the pump housing. I do got to take off the power or the ground, one or the other, so that I can put this aside and have the wire go with it. So we'll do that as well. Probably pull the ground off. And these are 3/8, just so you know. So we're just going to go ahead and remove both of these here. Oh, and I did take the ground off, so that can just go with the motor. I put the screw back there, so we'll lose it. So that'll be ready to go when the motor comes loose. So we're going to go ahead and just get these off all the way. And I'll need two hands for that, so I'll set the camera down. All right, so I gave it a little tap with a rubber hammer here, but make sure your hand's underneath it. It's pretty heavy and you don't want to drop it. But after that, she did come loose, so we'll go ahead and set that aside. Once the motor's off, you got to get these two out, and I used a little screwdriver, very small one, to clean out any dirt, because you want to make sure your wrench is set deep in there so you don't strip it out. Kind of the problem I was having with the drain plug. Although the wrench was in deep, it still started to strip. Fortunately for these, I got it in there good. It's going hard, but they are coming out. So we'll get these removed, and then we got to tap this plate off. Once those are out, you're just going to work your way around with a chisel, or I got like a flat nose punch here. You're just catching behind that seam. Once you get to that point, I think you can do it by hand. There we go. Now I drained a lot of it through my fill plug because I couldn't get the drain plug out, but there's definitely going to be stuff left in here. So let's try and catch that, which seems like we are. There we go, and boy, am I glad I took this apart. First of all, there's definitely water. You can see all the corrosion on this piece here. But more importantly, look at the junk in here. Look at that sludge. That is not good. So now this pump is probably, actually I know it's just never been apart. Look at that sludge. So tipping it upside down, actually draining it through the fill plug worked pretty well for draining it. See, and I had trouble with my drain plug, but it did not get all the sludge out. In fact, now some of it's probably up inside, went up inside there. So I'm gonna have to flush this thing out as well, because putting it upside down could move some of that sludge up the other way. So we gotta get this thing all cleaned out, and then we will start to put it back together. Hopefully you can see that looks a lot better. Cleaned it out. I'm gonna flush some stuff down through the top here to try to clean out around the cylinder housing and all that, and just let it drain down into my bucket here. So a little bit more wiping out to do, and we should be ready to start putting this together. And I did clean up this surface right here. Had some of that little corrosion on there, and because that's just stained from dirt being down there for so long. But we'll clean up that last little bit of liquid down there, make sure everything's all cleaned out. We'll start putting it back together. And I did take a few minutes to clean up the cover here, as well as the groove there where the O-ring sits. I'm gonna wipe that all down too and put it back in, because at the bottom there's quite a bit of corrosion here and on this as well. But we got it cleaned up pretty good. We'll go ahead and put the O-ring back on and get this back in position. The best way to do that is I just slid this on part way. It's not on all the way, just enough so the bolts could go through, and then just kind of have to basically you know, wiggle this back and forth until you get it lined up. Once you get one lined up, the second one shouldn't be too bad to get lined up. I don't have these tight yet, but I basically was working my way around to make sure the O-ring stayed in its groove, and a couple of times on the bottom I had to take something really small like this and just kind of pop it back into the groove gently, and then I just slowly used my palm and just tap around this a little at a time until it went in. Now it's in place. Now I can go ahead and tighten these up. I wouldn't use the bolts to pull it in. I would get that in place first, so you're not you know, crimping the O-ring or something, or cutting it. So now we'll go ahead and tighten these up, and that part will be back together. That's all tightened now, so make sure you put this seal back in place here, because this one just kind of slides off. So you get that back in position, and now we're about ready to put the motor back on. And for the motor, if you put one of the bolts in, sticking out this end here, you can just see, you set the motor down on here just gently, you can see that that's going to line up and go in place. And of course you got to look at your little tab goes in there to turn the pump, and make sure that is where it's supposed to be. If you didn't move anything, it should go right back in there. If you don't, you got to get that first and then turn this until you can line up a bolt, because that's got to be lined up in order for it to, for the motor to turn the pump, obviously, and it won't bolt up correctly if you don't get that lined up. Once you get one started, you should be able to get the other one in there. Get that one started. The further you can go in by hand, the better, because then you know you're not cross-threading anything. And that's 3/8 if I didn't mention that earlier. I'm sure there's torque specs for these, but you have to watch another video for that. I don't know. I apologize. This is just for entertainment purposes. So, all right, now I'm going to go ahead and hook the ground wire back up to here, and of course we got to put the cover back on. Now, take note, make sure you put the cover the right way. There is a hole in this back cover, and that should be on the bottom, so if any moisture does get out in there, it can drain out. And that also has an O-ring, and you can look in those holes there. You can kind of see where your screws need to go. There's one, there's the other. Well, we started out just wanting to drain the fluid, but that plug was stuck. We ended up showing you how to remove the motor, clean the entire inside out, which really worked out well in this case because it definitely needed it. That stuff definitely would not have all come out through the drain plug. And all there is left to do is to fill it back up, put the cover on, get it out on the truck, and test it out. So hopefully this helps you out. If you have a drain plug issue, it's another way you can do it. Plus, if it's an older unit, it may not be a bad idea to pull it apart and get out all of the gunk in there. You saw how much is inside this thing. Now, if you're fortunate enough you do get your drain plug out, you could flush it out, you know, but there's never any guarantee you're getting everything. But this one needed it, so it worked out okay. Hey, thanks for swinging by. Have a great day. We'll see you in the next video.